You have been looking at your body and your bank balance at the same time. You have been trying to decide which one you are allowed to believe. My child, I see the way your chest tightens when your phone lights up with a schedule that is thinner than it was last week. I see the pause in your hand before you open it. I see the way your mind begins counting before your eyes have even finished reading. Hours cut. Less pay. Rent still waiting. Food still needed. Transport still needed. Your body already tired. And now even the heat in your forehead does not feel like simple weakness to you. It feels expensive. It feels dangerous. Because once money becomes uncertain, even sickness starts sounding like a threat. So you stand in the dim bathroom light before a shift, and you quietly measure yourself. Can I push through this? Can I hide this? Can I get through today without anyone seeing that I am not well? Not because you are careless, not because you do not understand your limits, but because fear has been whispering that one missed shift could move you closer to being replaced. That one request for leave could make you look inconvenient. That one honest sentence about your body could cost you the little stability you have left. And under all of that, there is another sentence that has been forming in secret. If I cannot keep going, I become unsafe. That sentence has been sitting underneath your choices. It is there when you swallow medicine and still go out. It is there when you tell yourself it is probably nothing. It is there when you rehearse how normal you need to sound. It is there when you look at your account and feel your body tense before you can even think clearly. I am not turning away from how serious this feels. I am not asking you to pretend the numbers do not matter. I am not asking you to act as though unstable income is a small thing. It is not a small thing when the margin is thin. It is not a small thing when your schedule changes and your whole week changes with it. It is not a small thing when a part-time job begins to hold your nervous system hostage, because you do not know what will disappear next. I know the humiliation that can rise in these moments. Not only fear, but humiliation. The humiliation of needing rest at the same time you need money. The humiliation of feeling your body ask for mercy when your bills are asking for proof. The humiliation of realizing that what should be an ordinary human need begins to feel like a luxury meant for someone safer than you. So you make a private vow against your own softness. You do not call it that. You call it being responsible. You call it being realistic. You call it doing what you have to do. And some of that is true. But something else is happening too. You are slowly being trained to treat your body like the weak link in your survival. You are starting to stand over yourself the way pressure has stood over you. You are starting to look at your fatigue as a problem to manage, not a signal to honor. You are starting to feel guilty for being a living person with limits. That is one of the deepest thefts in this season. The wound is not only that money feels unstable. The wound is that instability begins to ask for your agreement. It asks you to believe that your worth becomes thinner when your hours become thinner. It asks you to believe that needing care makes you harder to keep. It asks you to believe that staying employed is the same thing as staying held. My child, I want to meet you there first, not at the end of the problem. Here, in this tightening, in this private negotiation, in this moment where you are trying to decide whether to honor your body or betray it a little longer. I am with you before the answer is clear. I am with you before the next schedule change. I am with you while your mind is still racing through worst outcomes. You do not have to become calm before I come near. You do not have to solve the weak before I speak. You do not have to hide how scared you are in order to be held by me. Let that sit where fear has been pressing. You are not less worthy of care because your income is unstable. You are not less deserving of mercy because your job feels fragile. You are not failing because your body is asking for what bodies ask for. Rest, slowness, recovery, attention. These are not moral defects. These are not proof that you are unreliable. These are not signs that you are weak in some shameful way. They are part of being human in a world that often rewards overextension until something breaks. So I do not want you to build your identity around how much discomfort you can ignore. I do not want you measuring your goodness by how successfully you override pain. I do not want your secret standard for safety to become this. I am okay only when I need nothing, because that standard will never stop demanding from you. It will not soften once you meet it. It will move the line again. Today it says push through the fever. Tomorrow it says smile through the exhaustion. Then it says hide the fear too. Then it says make yourself easier to use, easier to schedule, easier to replace, easier to overlook. And after a while you may still be working, but you will not feel inhabited. You will feel like someone living in constant readiness to be cut back again. That fear does not only touch your budget, it enters your body. It enters the way you sleep. It enters the way you answer messages. It enters the way you sit at the edge of the bed with a headache, already bargaining with tomorrow. It can make even small symptoms feel like accusations. Why now? Why today? Why can I not just make it through one more week? Listen carefully here. Your body is not your enemy for telling the truth. Your tiredness is not disloyal because it has limits. Your need for care is not sabotage. And your fear, though understandable, does not get to define what your life means. I know there are practical pressures here. I know there are numbers to count. I know there are consequences you are trying to avoid. But I want to begin loosening one thing tonight. I want to loosen the knot that ties your dignity to uninterrupted usefulness. Because that knot is cutting into you. It is making you carry more than uncertainty. It is making you carry accusation. It is making every sign of weakness feel like a courtroom. You cough, and fear interprets it. You wake up drained, and fear interprets it. You think about staying home, and fear interprets it. Suddenly your whole body is standing trial in front of the future. That is too cruel a room for you to live in. So let me come into that room. Let me stand inside that moment with you, not far above it, inside it, with the dim light, with the medicine on the counter, with your work clothes waiting, with the phone in your hand. I am there, and my presence is not a denial of your pressure. It is a refusal to let pressure become your master. There is a difference. One tells you that you must ignore reality. I do not tell you that. The other tells you that reality is not allowed to own your soul. That is what I am telling you now. You may have to make careful choices in this season. You may need wisdom. You may need courage. You may need to endure instability that you did not choose. But you do not belong to fear. You do not belong to the voice that says your only value is in how little you need. You do not belong to the system inside you that panics every time your humanity shows up. You belong with me while you are anxious. You belong with me while the week is uncertain. You belong with me while your body is asking for attention you do not know how to afford. That belonging does not erase the practical question, but it changes the ground under your feet while you face it. Because when fear is no longer your ground, you can begin to see more clearly what this season has been doing to you. not only thinning your paycheck, thinning your sense of permission, thinning your ability to rest without guilt, thinning your trust that you can be unwell and still be worthy of protection. And if that has been happening quietly for a while, the deeper question is not only how you will get through this week, it is what fear has been teaching you to surrender in order to survive. I will stay with you there, because some of what it takes from you is quiet at first. At first, it does not always show on the outside. A person can still show up, still clock in, still answer messages, still make it through a shift, and yet something inside has already begun to narrow. Because once you feel that income can disappear quickly, you start living in a smaller inner room. You speak less honestly there. You ask less from others there. You allow yourself less tenderness there. You begin to organize yourself around one goal. Do not become a problem. And that goal starts shaping more than work. It shapes how you wake up. It shapes how you read your own body. It shapes what you say when someone asks if you are all right. It even changes the tone of your reply before you notice it. And after enough days like that, survival no longer feels like earning money alone. It feels like keeping every sign of need hidden. My child, that is a heavy way to live. It is heavy because it asks you to carry two loads at once. The first load is the real pressure, the bills, the cut hours, the unstable schedule, the fear of missing one shift and losing standing. Those things are real. But then a second load gets laid on top. The strain of pretending that none of this is affecting you. The strain of acting as though your body is cooperative when it is tired. The strain of sounding untroubled when you are doing math in your head all day. That second load often goes unnamed, but it wears on you. It can make even rest feel tense. You sit down, but your shoulders stay braced. You lie in bed, but the mind keeps forecasting. You check tomorrow's shift, and your body reacts before your thoughts can catch up. A dip in the stomach, a tightening in the jaw, that small cold wave that says, I do not know if I am safe this week. And because that fear keeps returning, you may have started making private agreements with it. I will not complain. I will not slow down. I will not ask for too much. I will not show what is wrong. I will keep myself easy to keep. Those agreements can feel practical. Sometimes they even feel mature. But fear has a way of disguising cruelty as discipline. There is a difference between being wise in a hard season and being ruled by fear inside it. Wisdom pays attention. Fear worships threat. Wisdom makes careful choices. Fear makes your body kneel before worst-case thinking. Wisdom can endure discomfort when needed. Fear begins teaching you that your humanity is the obstacle. And if you do not see that clearly, you may begin calling fear by honorable names. Responsibility, work ethic, strength, reliability. And again, pieces of those words may be true. But fear will gladly hide inside good words if it gets to keep ruling you. It will let you call yourself dedicated while you slowly become estranged from your own need. It will let you call yourself strong while you become harsh toward your own body. It will let you call yourself responsible while your inner world starts living under constant threat. I do not want you confusing endurance with self-erasure. There are seasons where you will need to endure. That is true. There are seasons where options feel narrow. That is true too. But endurance is not meant to require that you disappear from yourself. It is not meant to require that you become less honest, less reachable, less human. And yet this wound often pushes a person exactly there. It narrows the inner language. Soon, you are no longer saying, "I am anxious because things feel unstable." You are saying, "I just need to toughen up." You are no longer saying, "I am tired and afraid." You are saying, "I cannot afford to feel this." You are no longer saying, "I wish I could rest." You are saying, "Rest is for people who are safer than I am." Do you hear how lonely those sentences are? Not only strict, lonely, because each one moves you farther away from truthful company with yourself. And when a person loses truthful company with themselves, pressure gains more room to rule. That is one of the hidden costs of this season. Not only financial strain, relational strain inside your own soul. You stop knowing how to be on your own side. You stop knowing how to respond to your own pain without suspicion. You stop knowing how to hear weakness without judgment. So the body says, "I am tired," and the inner voice replies, "That is inconvenient." The body says, "I think I am getting sick," and the inner voice replies, "Not now." The heart says, "I am scared," and the inner voice replies, "Keep functioning." That is not peace. That is internal command under pressure. And though it may keep you moving for a while, it extracts a cost. It drains tenderness. It drains clarity. It drains the sense that your life is something to care for, not merely force forward. My child, I am not accusing you for this. I am uncovering it because I want to protect you inside it. You learned some of these moves because the strain felt real, because the consequences felt sharp, because the margin felt thin, and perhaps because you have known what it is to lose something before. So now your body is trying to prevent it from happening again. I do not meet you here with shame. I meet you with sight. I meet you with steadiness. I meet you with the truth that fear may explain some of your reactions, but it does not deserve permanent authority over them. Let me say this plainly. You do not become more secure by abandoning yourself. You do not become more valuable by denying what is true. You do not become more worthy of keeping by making yourself less human. There are ways of surviving a hard season that slowly injure the one who is surviving it. And I do not want you calling that injury strength. I want you to begin noticing where fear has taught you to betray small truths, not to condemn yourself, to recover yourself, the small truth that you are tired, the small truth that you are frightened when the schedule changes, the small truth that being sick feels scary because the margin is narrow, the small truth that you have been carrying more tension than your face lets show, the small truth that some part of you is always bracing for loss. These truths matter because unnamed pressure becomes a ruler. Named pressure can begin to loosen. I stay close to you there, not in vagueness, not above your life. I come near the actual moment, the work shoes by the door, the cup of water beside the medicine, the phone in your hand. I come there because that is where fear has been trying to tutor you, and that is where I want to interrupt it. Not always by removing the difficulty at once, but by refusing fear the right to become your inward voice. There is a voice that says, hide the weakness, silence the body, make yourself easier to use. That voice is urgent. That voice is cold. That voice never blesses you after obedience. It only demands the next sacrifice. Then there is my way with you. I do not flatter you. I do not pretend there are no costs. I do not tell you that wise choices are unnecessary. But I do tell you the truth about your worth while you are under pressure. I tell you that your humanity is not a bargaining chip. I tell you that your body is not shameful when it reaches its limit. I tell you that fear may be loud, but it is not holy. I tell you that being in a vulnerable season does not place you beneath tenderness. And I tell you that you are still mine when your own thoughts become hard and narrow. Let that change the room a little. Not everything at once. Just a little. Enough for you to notice that fear has been acting like an owner. Enough for you to notice how quickly you apologize inwardly for being a person. Enough for you to notice how often your first instinct is to silence need instead of meet it. That noticing is not weakness. It is the beginning of recovered honesty. And recovered honesty is gentler than panic, but stronger than panic too. Because panic scatters. Honesty gathers. Panic drives. Honesty lets you see. Panic says, survive by any inward violence necessary. Honesty says, something is hurting here and it must not be ruled with contempt. That change is the beginning of a different kind of strength. Not the strength of pretending you never need care. The strength of remaining truthful while afraid. The strength of not letting pressure define what kind of voice will live inside you. The strength of still belonging to me while your future feels uncertain. By then, even your decisions can begin to tilt under it. Your rest, your limits, your next small choice. Fear tries to reach into all of them. That lie must be interrupted. Not with force, with firmer ground. I will teach you that ground. I will meet you inside the decision points. I will stay near where the mind races fastest. And I will show you that pressure may be present without becoming the voice you obey. When fear has been living close to your decisions for long enough, it starts presenting itself as wisdom. It speaks quickly. It sounds practical. It always points to consequences. And because the consequences are not imaginary, you may stop questioning the spirit of that voice. You may begin assuming that whatever feels most urgent must also be most responsible. But urgency and wisdom are not the same. They can stand very near each other. They can even borrow similar words. Yet they do not lead you the same way. Urgency tightens first and sees later. Wisdom sees first and then chooses with steadier hands. Urgency says, decide now, suppress what you feel, do not risk displeasing anyone. Wisdom says, stay honest about what is true, then move carefully. Urgency makes your body smaller while you think. Wisdom lets your soul remain present while you choose. Many of your hardest moments right now are not dramatic from the outside. They are quiet decisions. The message you have not answered yet. The moment you stand there trying to decide whether to tell the truth about how unwell you feel. The moment you wonder whether to accept one more shift even though your body is already strained. The moment you start rehearsing how to sound normal. Those moments pass quickly, but they leave something behind in you. Every time panic chooses for you, it leaves a residue. A little more self-distrust, a little more bodily neglect, a little more inward scrambling, a little more training in the belief that your needs must always stand at the back of the line. So I want to meet you there, inside the exact places where choices get made, the half-written message, the schedule request, the moment you stare at the clock and try to calculate whether you can survive one more shift without making yourself worse. The moment you compare pain against income. The moment you try to guess how replaceable you are. I am there, and I am not silent in those moments. I know how fast the mind can move there. One thought becomes 5. 5 become 10. Soon you are no longer deciding only about today. You are imagining next month. You are imagining disappointment. You are imagining being cut loose. You are imagining bills with no answer. Then the body, already tired, gets forced to carry futures that have not arrived. That is one reason panic feels so exhausting. It never handles one thing at a time. It drags tomorrow into today. It makes you answer to losses that have not happened. It can make one sick day feel like a prophecy of collapse. Listen closely here. You do need wisdom in this season. You do need discernment. You do need care in how you move. But you do not need panic posing as maturity. Panic is not proof that you are taking life seriously. Sometimes panic is simply fear that has gone unquestioned for too long. And when fear goes unquestioned, it starts assigning value. It tells you that the bravest thing is always to endure more. It tells you that the most responsible thing is always to ask less. It tells you that the safest thing is always to make your body absorb the cost quietly. But that is not always wisdom. Sometimes that is fear choosing the quickest sacrifice. Sometimes that is fear spending your strength because it cannot imagine another way to feel secure. I want to help you separate those voices. Not all at once, but enough that a little space begins to open between pressure and obedience. That space may look small. It may last only a few breaths at first, yet it is holy ground in a season like this. Because in that space, you are no longer only reacting, you are becoming reachable again. Reachable to truth, reachable to wisdom, reachable to your own condition, reachable to me. Without that space, fear grabs the wheel before honesty has spoken. With that space, you can begin to ask better questions. What is actually true in my body right now? What cost am I quietly asking myself to absorb? When did weakness become a moral threat in my mind? These are not indulgent questions. They are clarifying questions. They help restore reality where fear has been narrowing it. Because fear often presents only two choices: push through or lose everything. But fear makes the room smaller than it is. Sometimes wisdom is simply telling the truth about what your body can carry today. Even when the options are still hard, fear usually makes them feel harsher, more total, and more immediate than they are. Pressure must not become your master. A master does not simply advise. A master tells you what kind of person you must become in order to survive. Tireless, silent, useful before honest, productive before human, easy to keep at any inward cost. That is what fear has been trying to shape in you. And if you are not careful, you may begin cooperating with that shaping because it sounds adult. My child, I want something better for you even inside a narrow season. I want you to become steadier, not harder, truer, not more hidden, wiser, not more panic-driven, braver, not more self-betraying. That change begins in the instant before you obey fear. That instant may feel almost invisible, but it is not empty. It is where truth can enter. It is where you can notice the racing in your chest. It is where you can admit, I am scared and fear is pushing me fast. It is where you can stop calling every internal alarm wisdom. It is where you can let your body be a witness instead of an inconvenience. And it is where I can steady you, not by making every choice obvious, but by changing the kind of ground you stand on while you choose. Because when fear is the ground, every decision becomes a threat response. When truth becomes the ground, even hard choices can be made with more dignity. You may still have to make a difficult call. You may still have to weigh real consequences. You may still have to choose inside uncertainty. but you will not need to disappear from yourself in order to do it. That is a serious mercy. You do not have to become inwardly violent just because the season is externally unstable. You do not have to talk to yourself with contempt in order to stay functional. You do not have to strip your humanity down to bare usefulness before you are allowed to act. Many tired hearts assume that gentleness will make them careless. They assume that if they stop driving themselves with fear, they will fall apart. They assume that kindness toward their own body will make them irresponsible. But harshness is not the same thing as strength, and panic is not the same thing as discipline. Many people are not being held together by wisdom. They are being driven by alarm that can produce motion. It cannot produce a peaceful center, and without a peaceful center, every decision takes more from you than it should. It drains twice, first from the problem itself, then from the way you have to fight yourself in order to face the problem. I do not want that second draining to remain normal for you. So begin here. When the schedule changes and your mind surges, notice it. When you start composing a false version of your condition, notice it. When you begin treating your body like an obstacle to income, notice it. When fear starts speaking in the voice of duty, notice it. Notice without mocking yourself. Notice without adding shame. Notice as one who is beginning to wake up inside the pattern. That kind of noticing is already a form of freedom. Not complete freedom yet, but real freedom, because what is seen clearly can no longer rule you in quite the same hidden way. And from there, something steadier can begin. A different posture, a different inner tone, a different way of standing in front of practical pressure. Not careless, not naive, not detached from consequence, but no longer kneeling automatically before fear. On that ground, you can begin protecting what fear has been trying to spend: your body, your truthfulness, your limits, your dignity, your right to make one careful choice without feeling that your whole life is on trial. That protection is not weakness. It is part of how I will teach you to remain whole in a season that keeps pressing you to fragment. By then, even a quiet evening can start feeling expensive inside you. Pressure begins asking for something personal. Not only time, not only effort, sleep, honesty, recovery, peace, the right to say, "This is too much for my body today." And if that pressure lasts long enough, you may begin to think this is simply adulthood. That being responsible means always finding one more thing in yourself to spend. One more hour, one more silence, one more override, one more private betrayal. But my child, not everything pressure asks for should be handed over. I want that to settle inside you now. There are things that must be protected, even in a narrow season. Your body is one of them. Your truthfulness is one of them. Your inward dignity is one of them. The small center inside you that still needs gentleness is one of them too. I know how quickly fear argues against this. It says protection is a luxury. It says limits are for safer people. It says honesty is dangerous. It says tenderness will make you weak. It says if you stop driving yourself with alarm, everything will collapse. But fear always overstates its case. It speaks like an emergency even when it is only defending control. One sign that fear has been overreaching in you is this: it has not only tried to help you avoid loss, it has tried to take ownership of what kind of person you must become. It has tried to make you believe that staying employable requires staying divided from yourself. That is too high a price. A hard season may ask for courage. It may ask for careful planning. It may ask for endurance, but it must not be allowed to demand your contempt for your own humanity. So this is where I draw a line with you, not a dramatic line, a holy one, a restoring one, a line that says, I will no longer agree that my body only matters when it performs without interruption. A line that says, I will no longer call my need for care a character flaw. A line that says, I will no longer let panic decide my worth before wisdom has spoken. That line may not change all your circumstances tonight, but it changes the room inside you. It changes the way you stand in it. Instead of standing over yourself like a supervisor with no mercy, you begin to stand with yourself more truthfully. You begin to say, this is hard. This is real. I do need wisdom, but I do not need to become cruel in order to survive it. That is a serious shift. It may sound small. It is not small, because cruelty drains more than situations do. A difficult week can wound you, but a difficult week with inward contempt wounds deeper. An unstable schedule can exhaust you, but an unstable schedule joined to the belief that you are only as valuable as your uninterrupted output will hollow you out faster. That is why I have stayed so near the way you speak to yourself. I am not only comforting your fear, I am retraining the place in you that has been speaking under fear. I want another tone to live there, not a careless tone, not a fantasy tone, not a tone that ignores bills or risk. A steadier tone, a truer tone, a tone that can say, I am under pressure, but I do not belong to pressure. A tone that can say, my body is giving me information, not betraying me. A tone that can say, I may have difficult choices to make, but I do not have to make them from panic. A tone that can say, I am still worthy of care while the numbers are uncertain. This matters in the next ordinary moment. The night you sit on the edge of the bed and feel the week start pressing forward again. The moment the next message waits in your hand. The moment fear tries to rush you into obedience. I do not want you entering that moment as though your whole life is standing trial. I want you entering it from firmer ground. Ground that tells the truth inwardly first. Ground that does not shame your body for being a body. Ground that does not turn every symptom into a verdict on your future. Ground that does not surrender dignity just because the margin is thin. This firmer ground does not mean you will always know what to do at once. It does not mean the external pressure disappears. It does not mean every choice becomes easy. It means something gentler and stronger. You stop helping fear prosecute you. You stop joining the accusation. Survival no longer has to borrow your inward violence. That alone can return some breath to a person. Because so much of your exhaustion has not only come from work, it has come from the way you have had to brace against yourself while working. The way your own thoughts have chased you. The way every sign of limitation has felt like something to hide, outrun, or apologize for. If that bracing begins to loosen, even a little, some strength comes back. Not because the week becomes easy, because the inner war is not consuming all your strength anymore. A person can endure much more cleanly when the attack is not coming from within. So let me place this gently into the next few hours. When fear begins speaking fast, do not automatically call it wisdom. When your body tells the truth, do not automatically treat it as an inconvenience. When tomorrow starts trying to enter early and possess tonight, do not automatically hand over the room. Come back to what is actually here. This breath, this body, this moment, this need for steadier ground, Come back to the fact that I am with you before the future resolves. Come back to the fact that care is not a reward you earn after perfect endurance. Come back to the fact that your limits are not humiliations to erase. They are part of the truth through which wisdom must move. There may be days in this season when you still push too hard. There may be moments when fear gets ahead of you again. There may be decisions you look back on and wish had been made from calmer ground. Do not turn that into a new accusation. Do not build a second wound out of imperfect learning. I am not teaching you this so that you can fail at it and condemn yourself again. I am teaching you this so that, little by little, another way of standing becomes available to you. A way of standing that is more inhabited, more truthful, more peaceful in the center. Even while some outer things remain unstable, that is how dignity begins returning in a hard season. Not always through dramatic rescue, often through recovered permission. Permission to notice, permission to tell the truth, permission to stop calling fear holy, permission to treat your body as something entrusted to your care, not merely offered up to the weak's demands. Permission to choose from steadiness more often than from alarm. Permission to remain mine without proving your worth through overuse. You do not have to solve the whole season before the next small act of faithfulness appears. You do not have to answer the whole month before you answer the next honest moment. You do not have to secure the whole future before you honor one true limit. You do not have to become invulnerable before you are allowed to be treated with care. Let the next step be smaller than fear says it has to be. Let it be one honest sentence. One truthful check in with your body. One quiet refusal to join the inward accusation. One decision made from steadier ground instead of reflex panic. One moment where you do not abandon yourself just because pressure is loud. That is not nothing. That is how repair often begins. Quietly, cleanly, with less spectacle than fear prefers. And when you lie down tonight and feel your mind reaching for the weak too quickly, remember this. You are not a machine whose value is proven by uninterrupted output. You are not disposable because your body has limits. You are not failing because this season frightens you. You are not less mine when you need care. Rest here for a moment, my child, not in denial. In truth, the week may still be uncertain. The schedule may still be thin. The money questions may not all be answered yet. But you do not have to hand over your whole inner life to that uncertainty. You may let your shoulders lower a little. You may unclench what has been bracing for disaster. You may stop treating every need as a threat. You may enter the next hour without first surrendering your dignity. And when tomorrow comes, you do not have to meet it alone or as your own enemy. You may meet it with me, with more truth than panic, with more steadiness than accusation, with one small, faithful step at a time. That is enough for tonight.